Hi, welcome back to Chai with Chalk, and if you're new here, welcome! So today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Instead of interviewing a doctor, we're going to interview a biomedical engineer Ph.D. student. So if you're interested in hearing information from them, let's hop right into the video! So today I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Sabrina Vandenhavel.
Okay, nice to meet you. So you're a biomedical engineer. Can you describe what a biomedical engineer is and what do you do as one?
Yeah, so biomedical engineering is a very broad field. There are a lot of avenues you can go within biomedical engineering, but there's three aspects to biomedical engineering in general. So you have the engineering part. So that kind of brings in a lot of problem solving and critical thinking skills. And I have a great respect for all of the engineering degrees because of that fundamental kind of problem solving and critical thinking knowledge that you learn through those degree programs. And then, of course, there's the biology part. So we take our engineering problem solving skills and we apply that to biological problems. And then further, you have the medical part. So we apply our biological knowledge and our engineering knowledge to solve clinically relevant medical issues. So that can be anything, which is why it's so broad. So, I mean, you can approach it from, different types of engineering. So you can approach it from more of a mechanical engineering standpoint or a materials engineering standpoint or, electrical or chemical, kind of anything. And there's all of these clinically relevant medical issues, right? I mean, you have different, just any kind of disease, you have cancer, you have regenerative medicine, prosthetics, pharmaceuticals, robotic surgery. So this can be applied to so many different fields and so many different areas of the medical field, which is why it's so interesting, I think, and why so many people are interested in becoming a part of it now that this field is kind of growing. So for me, I am still in grad school. I am working in a lab at Texas A&M University. So I do research, and kind of generally my research is in cancer immunology. So I look at cancer metastasis. So metastasis of cancer is when tumor cells from a primary tumor are going to leave that tumor. They're going to escape and move to a different part of the body and make another tumor somewhere else. And that's a very big issue in curing a lot of different cancer types because finding those metastases is really hard. So I'm focusing on using different biomaterials strategies to model metastasis kind of outside of the body in my lab and study what's going on with the cancer cells and different immune cells and figure out, how we can stop that with things like an immunotherapy drug. So day in and day out, I work in a lab. I'm doing research, but there are so many different kind of career paths you can take within biomedical engineering, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more as we chat more. So,
Yeah, definitely. So what made you specifically choose like the biomedical career path? And beyond that, what made you choose like the more like cancer immune cell research part of it?
yeah, so I've always been interested in the medical field in general. I'm really interested in the direct ability to help so many people and just the opportunity to do that. So so directly, I guess, is really the thing, because there's a lot of career paths where you get to help people, but it might be more indirect. And I just like this this task, this opportunity, this obstacle to kind of embrace and take on. But there was a few reasons why I didn't want to go, directly into medicine. One being, I don't think I have the stomach or the mental capacity to cut somebody open, honestly. Like, I don't think I can do that. Not that that's the only thing you can do in medicine, but I didn't think that I, really loved that aspect of it. But I also was really excited about the engineering aspects of kind of how things work and why, and trying to figure that out. And you do that in medicine too, because, you have your patients and you have this new problem every single day, and you have to, use those critical thinking skills and solve these very pressing issues. But I like the creativity aspect of, engineering, design, and research. And I'm just, like I said, really interested in, figuring out how things work and and why, and what we can do to kind of intervene in that in terms of medical problems. So when I was younger, I had a few of my family members diagnosed with cancer, and as many people do, I mean, it's a very prevalent issue in our society today, but that really got me passionate about wanting to try to make better clinical treatments for different types of cancers, and I really got interested in pursuing that field. I kind of happened upon a lab during my undergrad. I worked under someone that you've actually already interviewed, Dr. Paul Sundell, during my undergraduate degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I happened upon his research, heard about it through a friend, and just thought it was really, really interesting. So I ended up working for him doing cancer immunology research during my undergrad, and just kind of as I worked in it and as I learned more about it, I just got more passionate about it and wanted to pursue it further in my graduate degree.
Okay, yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I think cancer is a huge issue. So I like how there are so many steps being taken currently in all different bio fields to help solve it. So you mentioned that you go to Texas A&M University. What made you specifically choose that school, and how do you kind of recommend choosing a school for biomedical engineering?
So it kind of differs, I'd say, a little bit between choosing a school for an undergraduate degree and for a graduate degree. So I can kind of address both just for clarification purposes. So for both of them, I guess in general, the location obviously matters to you. It's all up to you. Where are you willing and able to go in your state or in throughout the country? And that can be, dependent on a lot of different factors. There's also obviously the entire school and your department's reputation in terms of the degree that you want to get. So there's definitely better programs for certain degrees in across all schools. I mean, every school kind of has its specialties, and there's some that might have a lot of them. So you just kind of have to do your research there. But then there's kind of a difference in the sense that, so for your undergraduate degree, it's really about that degree, that bachelor's degree, or whatever you're going to get out of it. And for a graduate program, especially for a PhD program, a lot of what I'm doing here is my research. So I am taking classes, and I'm going to get my biomedical engineering PhD. So I'm taking those classes and I'm learning the formal education side of things. But I'm also spending a lot of time in lab. And so the research that I'm doing was a big draw for why I came here. And that is, again, just dependent on what you want to do and the kind of research that's being done at different universities. So when I chose A&M for my PhD, I was looking at, the reputation of the biomedical engineering department here and the kind of professors that were working here. And then I also had to look at each professor that was working here and the research that they were doing. So I found a research lab when I was looking for schools that I was really, really interested in working in. And so I reached out to my current professor, the principal investigator on my team, and just expressed to her that I was interested in working in her lab, and further applied to the school and made that happen. But so yeah, for a graduate program, especially a PhD program, when you're doing research, it's very, very dependent on the professor. So even if I applied all over the country because I was finding one professor at each school that I was really interested in working with, but there's not 12 professors at every university doing cancer immunology research. So it's very, very dependent on where you want to go and the kind of work that you want to do. And for both undergraduate and graduate degree programs, I think the fit, which is a very subjective term, but a lot of people use it, and I think it's actually very relevant and beneficial, but your personal fit on a university or in a department is really important. So how you feel when you walk across campus or when you talk to the students and professors in those programs, and just a lot of aspects about that, just the culture of the city and everything like that, they're all really important, especially when you're going to be there for 4 or 5 years. It's very, very relevant to your studies is how you feel in the department and in the city that you're living in. So that's I think the biggest thing, honestly, for either decision. How you feel in those programs and in those places is really important for your success.
Yeah, I think that's good advice to hear. And also, you said that you're a PhD student. So what made you choose becoming a PhD student versus just getting like a bachelor's or a master's and then entering the workforce?
So that was actually a very hard decision for me. And it kind of came from, I have a little bit of a unique background within engineering. So I did my undergraduate degree in a different type of engineering. So I actually wasn't a biomedical engineer by training. I'm not technically a biomedical engineer yet. I am technically by training a materials science engineer. So I got more of a, chemistry and materials background. And I took some biomedical engineering courses along the way. And then I was doing my research, like I said, in cancer immunology. So I kind of had the two sides. I had, the engineering and the materials side, and the biology side, but they weren't together. During my undergrad, I was doing two separate things. And so the biggest thing for me was I wanted to get more, formal training, putting those two together. I wanted to take the classes in biomedical engineering that I was really interested in, and do research, that put those two things together as well, which is what I'm doing here at A&M. So it was also a little bit difficult for me because during my undergraduate degree, I was doing research and I didn't ever have an internship or a position, to kind of see what industry or in like the workforce is like, which was definitely difficult for me to decide then to keep going to school, because there was a part of me that said, what if I really like industry? Like, what if I just try it and I love it and I never want to go back to PhD school? Like, what if I don't need this? So that's definitely a hard decision. And it's a very personal decision depending on, what your plans are and what you want to do. But for me, it was just kind of about bringing those together and getting, more of that experience and education that I thought would be beneficial for me in whatever I do next.
Okay, so partially because like you did more research in your undergrad, that's why you decided to go into PhD?
Yeah, so I knew I liked the research aspect of things, and I knew, I could, muster up a few more years of, working hard and doing that. Yeah, I just wanted to do more of that in the field that I was planning on pursuing.
Okay, so like when you graduate from your PhD degree, what kind of career possibilities are there for a biomedical engineer? Like personally, I want to have a job that would have like a nice work-life balance. So I know like a lot of medical careers might not provide that, but I feel like this career could. What are some different career possibilities that I could do with a biomedical degree?
So, like I said, the field itself is super broad. So, as you work through your education in biomedical engineering, you tend to specialize. So, you'll take, more classes in the mechanical side of things, or maybe in materials, or kind of like my immunology side of things. But there's so many different aspects of the field itself. So, you can kind of do whatever you want, which is super cool. And even with any kind of engineering degree, if you get a bachelor's degree in engineering, you can do so many things because, like I said, the fundamental, aspects of what you learn in an engineering degree is the critical thinking, the problem solving, the creativity kind of aspects to apply to like real science problems of any kind. So you're a very valuable employee when you come out with an engineering degree. And then you focus in on biomedical and you can, again, do anything. So, I mean, there's the different fields of, there's like bioinstrumentation, there's medical devices. You can do more cellular, molecular, genetic kind of engineering. That's kind of what I do. You can do imaging. So there's a whole optics side of engineering that I'm like super unfamiliar with. That's really cool, for different like MRI techniques or like different other diagnostic techniques within the medical field. And there's way more as well. So there's all of these different fields. And then within that, you can be in a few different settings as well. So there's academic settings. So that's kind of where I am right now. You're working at a university, up the line, you would be the professor for a lab, the head of your own lab, and you're doing research for your job. You can also, a lot of these professors also teach while they're working at this university. So you can be a professor and you can teach and do research, and kind of decide, for yourself what you want to do for your work. You follow what your interest is and kind of where your research takes you. And you can do research on basically whatever you want forever, which is really cool. So to work up to that, there's a few different positions like getting a PhD and, a few other training things that you need, but there's kind of the academic setting where you can stay as like a real research scientist forever. And then there's also just kind of the industry side of things, which has its own avenues, but it's, working for a pharmaceutical company, or on the manufacturing side of things for any kind of medical device, or, anything that's sold to a hospital, or, a clinic, anything like that, any device or drug. You can be on the manufacturing side of things. You can do research, within industry. So you can do research for these companies. And there's also positions like within the government for screening like the safety standards of, different medical devices and things like that. But I do, back to the work-life balance thing, I definitely see a lot of opportunity within biomedical engineering, kind of as opposed to maybe different areas of the medical field, for a better work-life balance. Just because, if you're working for one of these industry companies, or, even for a governmental position, you have more of, or you're more likely to find that, not strict, but that 9 to 5 position. So you have more strict hours, a little bit more ability to kind of leave work at work. So the thing about research is it's definitely hard to do that. I think I found it anyway, maybe not for everyone. But for me, it's like the research never stops, right? So there's always more you can do, more you can, read, there's more you can, plan and, do these experiments, and there's no like stopping place, especially if you want to stay in this academic research forever. So for me, it's definitely something I'm learning as a student here still, is, how to maintain that work-life balance, because it's hard, especially as a student. I want to, get out a lot of data. I want to impress my professor. I want to work really hard, obviously, which is great, but it's definitely something you have to learn along the way and practice and make sure that you kind of account for yourself. But there's definitely opportunity, within the field to make sure that that's a possibility for you. And long term, I think, especially when you're getting a job and things, it's just kind of about asking those questions of your employer and making sure that, they have things in place that allow for that, and kind of safety measures to make sure that things don't happen. So just ask the questions of, have your employees had issues with this in the past? What do we do about it? What safety measures do you have in place to make sure that doesn't happen? And what are my expectations, as your employee? And if you ask those questions and you know yourself and you have your own boundaries, then I think you should be okay in basically everything you do. So.
Okay, yeah, thank you. You said that it was like overwhelming when you gave a lot of career positions, but it's actually really reassuring to hear that, knowing that there's like a lot of different job opportunities if I were to go into the biomedical field. And also, like, I guess with research, it is kind of hard to maintain a work-life balance, but when you do research, I feel like the people that do research are very like involved in that and probably really enjoy having like more of that in their life. And so you've already given like a lot of great advice about like choosing colleges, like career possibilities, what to ask people when you get a job. But what other advice would you have for high school students that are thinking about becoming a biomedical engineer?
Well, so I guess in terms of like starting now, things you can, actively do or think about right away. The classes that you're going to need to take, if you want to, go through any type of engineering, are going to be like your math, your physics, chemistry, biology for biomedical engineering. So work hard in those classes and make sure that you truly love those things, because they're going to be relevant and important for, the rest of your career if you're going to keep doing these types of things. And then I would also just advise experience for gain as much experience as you possibly can in anything. So that could be clubs or jobs, internships, not necessarily that things that you need to do right now, but especially when you get to college, to kind of explore what you like and what you don't like. Especially with all of these, different fields and different paths you can take within biomedical engineering. It's very easy to just kind of get lost and keep all of these options open, which is great. But at some point you're going to have to, figure out what you like and focus in on that and kind of pursue that more exclusively. And so if you get more experience, working in industry, in research, just kind of participating in clubs where you can listen to different speakers and seminars and talk to people like you're doing, like this action that you're taking right now to, ask the questions early and meet different kinds of people and hear about different opportunities for yourself, that's awesome. That's exactly what you need to do. And that's exactly what you need to continue doing. So just ask the questions, talk to people, and just keep your options open. I think that's the biggest thing I can say, and just get experience. So you find out for yourself, what works for you and what doesn't.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciated your answers.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was nice chatting with you.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment down below any doctors you'd like to see me interview or any other questions you're curious about hearing answers from them. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video. Bye!